Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everybody. Can you just confirm whether I'm audible and visible? Can you please confirm if I'm audible and visible, everybody? Those who can see me. Hello, hello. Why are the chats not coming in? Okay, now the live chats are here. Sorry. Good evening, Ashish. Good evening. Good evening. Namaste, Ankush. Namaste. Yes, sir, you're audible and visible. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Awesome, awesome. Okay, now the live chat is here. Okay. Yeah, so we start in a couple of minutes. How are you, Vedant? How are you? Yes, you're audible and visible. Thank you, thank you. Vedant, thank you. Thank you, everybody. So how's everyone doing? So before we start the session, if you have any specific question that you want, that I ensure that I cover in the session today, if you have any concern, any important question, right? All right, Vedant, that's pretty awesome, pretty awesome. Okay. This arrangement is not good. So I can read your chats. So people, do we have any questions here? Yeah. It's a Saturday evening. Are people relaxing? Okay. Any questions, any queries here till now? Ankush, you're not in a good spirit, Baba. What happened? Huh? Yeah, the mood depends on you, right? You have to first figure out what is bothering you. Yes? Right. And then you kind of need to address that as well. Yeah. Okay, people, welcome to this another fantastic session of Unacademy. And in this session we are going to talk about how to take mock exams and analyze them. Sabse pehli baat, it's how we say it is how to take mock exams. Most of the time, I see people saying how to give mock exams, right? Baba, the examiner gives the mock exams. The students, the student community, they take the mock exams. They don't give the mock exams, right? So that's one wrong expression that we tend to use about mock exams, right? So this is the thing. Ankush, you didn't say what's wrong, Baba, right? Okay, people, before I continue, I must inform you about Nikhil. Hello, hello. Unacademy conducts every week. Unacademy conducts a scholarship test, and we call it as Unacademy Combat, and you can get a scholarship to the tune of 55 lakh rupees, and about 200 people, they get scholarship every week, and you can actually win a 1-year subscription completely free and a minimum of 25% scholarship. So fees here is already low and you get fantastic scholarship as well. Tarun, welcome to the session, and you can use my code to enroll. You can scan right now and you can enroll right now itself, right? Okay, right, so that's one thing. And those who do not know about me, let me tell you something about me. My name is Ravi Manoram. I'm an MBA from FMS Delhi, and I did my engineering from Delhi Technological University. But now I'm following my passion of literature. I'm an author of 2 books, and but the thing really that also clicked with me was, teaching and training students. And in this area, I have more than 6 years of experience by now, right? And I'm a proud mentor and guide to many 99 percentiles in the past who have graduated and are studying in elite business schools such as IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, FMS XLRI. I primarily teach all areas of verbal ability and reading comprehension for CAT, GMAT, and other MBA entrance exams. I also teach reasoning and general knowledge. I also train students for group discussion, interviews, and personality development. And those who know me, those who have studied from me, they know that I'm a person who believes in dedication, perseverance, empathy, and intellect, and these are the values for which people love and respect me. Rajat, good evening, my dear. Aditi, good evening, welcome to the session. Right, exam thoughts and all. Okay, we'll address that. Ankush, we'll address that in today's session. Right, right. So people, you can subscribe to be on Academy at this channel, right? You can join my Telegram group as well. Here I share a lot of articles for people to read. I conduct a lot of free classes on Unacademy, so you would be benefited from that as well. And you can use my code, which is RAVIFMS, and you will be able to unlock 10% discount on Unacademy as well, right? So that is also a thing, right? Okay, people, let's continue. So the agenda for discussion today is we are going to talk about the difference between college exams and board exams and competitive exams. When should we start giving the mock exams? Well, by now I think most of you would have already started giving the mock exams. Then I'm going to discuss individual strategies for CAT exams and the other management entrance tests, right? I'll discuss in the format form, that is, CAT has fixed time for each section, right? Some other management entrance tests like XAT and all, they have a composites time in which all the sections are given, so that requires a very different strategy, right? Then you have NMAT and GMAT kind of an exam wherein you have to solve a question and then you go to the next question, and the questions are adaptive in nature. That is, with each correct answer, the level of difficulty also increases, right? And how to analyze mock exams, right? So we're going to discuss this as well, which is the most important aspect about the mock exams. Okay, people, subscribe here and let's begin, right? Let's begin. Okay. So the first thing that I would like to talk about is when it comes to CAT exams, right? Sabka ek hi kehna hai ki sir, engineers have undue advantage. I'm not an engineer, right? Can I even clear the CAT exam and so on and so forth? So these are the kind of questions people that comes into the minds of the people. I myself am an engineer, right? So I'm going to share some secrets out here, so maybe that will actually help you, right? First of all, engineers study physics, chemistry, and mathematics to get into engineering colleges, right? While MBA entrance exam tests and all, they test your aptitude in verbal ability, quant, LRDI, and GK in some exams, right? Right. Ashish, it's not really an engineer's arena, but slowly and gradually you will discover this, right? See. Now, when you're talking about this exam part, engineers also are weak in verbal ability. LRDI, okay, they have to work hard, so does everybody, right? GK also, they don't know. Some advantage in quant, I would definitely give you that, right? But it's not that all engineers exhibit the same level of thing, right? Advantage. And secondly, the CAT pattern is like most of the quant areas are kind of tested from the class 10th syllabus, right? And maybe a little bit geometry and everything and all that also comes, right? So it's not that other people cannot work hard, right? So except for quant, I don't really think there's much of an advantage in terms of knowledge and content. Yes, but what engineers really have in terms of advantage is the experience of competitive exams. Whether they have got into an elite engineering college or not, what these people have is the experience of competitive exams. They know how to handle uncertainty, And this is a huge point, people, right? This is a huge point, that they know how to handle uncertainty, right? And therefore, if you talk about students from Shahid Sukhdev College of Business Studies, these students, they perform extremely well, right? And they also get about 99 percentile and all. And even if you talk about students of SRCC, they do perform extremely well in the exams, right? And they are not engineers, right? So I don't really think it is engineering that has to do anything with the advantage or non-advantage to the given situation, right? See, what is required to do well is the right mental and psychological attitude towards competitive exams, and this is what makes the entire preparation paramount, right? Developing the right mental and psychological attitude is very important, right? So what will help you develop the right mental and psychological attitude? It is going to be taking a lot of mock exams and then analyzing your preparation accordingly. That is actually what is going to make a lot of difference, right? So continuing further, so first of all, I would like to talk about what's the difference between college board exams on one hand and versus competitive exams on the other. Now, this difference is very important to understand, right? Because what happens is, most of the students, what I see them doing is that they tend to approach competitive exams with the mentality that they have for college or board exams, right? So what kind of mentality that they use? See, college and board exams, if you prepare well, most of the questions are quite familiar when you're giving the exam, right? And it's almost like you've kind of solved that question before, right? Well, that deja vu does happen in competitive exams as well, right? But more or less in college and board exams, that is there, right? And given today's scenario, college and board exams, they kind of give huge marks. Right? For example, like 98, 99, 100%, like this year we did not see the board exams happening, but in the previous years we've seen people scoring up to 100% in the exams, right? Or 10 CGPA 10th mein, it's like as common as anything, right? So this marks mentality, what I like to call it as marks mentality, mentality what's happening with me, right? This marks mentality kind of gets transferred to the competitive exams as well, right? And this is where people, they tend to suffer, right? This marks mentality which kind of gets transferred to the competitive exams, right? So I see people complaining a lot, sir, competitive marks nahi aa rahe marks mein, and they find themselves troubled by this thought, right? So that actually becomes a problem. So now when we talk about college and board exams, right, and competitive exams, let's try and understand some of the differences before we delve deeper into defining a strategy. In college and board exams, everything is well defined. In competitive exams, especially like CAT, they kind of broadly say that we are going to ask you questions from verbal ability, quant, LRT. Verbal ability, if I'm saying, then kind of the entire section, VRC section, that nothing like what would be there, what would not be there, which topics would come, which topics would not come, all of these things, nothing is mentioned, right? Exactly what is going to come here, right? So when you talk about college exams, which is well defined, you can kind of refer to the previous paper and you can kind of get an idea about what is going to come this year, and you can accordingly prepare, right? The problem is the same mistake people tend to commit with competitive exams. That is, they try to predict the paper based on the previous year pattern, right? And that is exactly where people, they tend to suffer, right? So how do we define the syllabus, as far as competitive exams is concerned? It's just like a boxing match, people, right? It's just like a boxing match. So when you are when you're preparing for a boxing match, you want to be a boxer, right? So how do you become a boxer, right? You kind of master all the aspects about defeating the enemy. You don't focus on a couple of enemies, their bouts, their styles, and you prepare accordingly. You have to prepare in a manner that you can defeat any or every kind of enemy that comes along, right? So, basically when you're talking about quant, of course we verbal quant or LRDI, of course we define the syllabus based on what has appeared in the previous exams, right, in the previous years, right? So we definitely define the syllabus based on that. Then we also look at what are the possibilities of topics that might actually come, right? So that is also something, we kind of define it, right? And then we also define the syllabus on the topics that you need to learn in order to master those topics which have a probability of appearing in the exam, right? Now in this scenario, what's the mistakes that students they tend to commit? For example, let's talk about verbal ability and reading comprehension, right? Let's say grammar has not appeared for the last 3, 4, or maybe 5 years, right? So what students do is they completely ignore grammar, right? What if it appears in CAT 21? What are you going to do in that case, right? Right. And what if you are going to give the exam then the next year? Even in next year, this thing could actually appear, right? So the point is you have to master all the areas. You can leave no stone unturned, people. You cannot leave any stone unturned as far as doing well in the exam is concerned. Number one. Right. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is that, if you're talking about paper pattern, right, you have to be, kind of average in all the topics, right? And then you should master selective topics as time permits, right? Okay, let me elaborate a little more on the paper pattern, right? The paper in college and board exams, the paper can be completed within the stipulated amount of time. When you talk about competitive exams, no one can solve all the questions within the stipulated amount of time. Let's say if a student is well prepared, right? So 2 hours, you have about 76 questions. If you were to solve all those 76 questions, then let's say even if you can solve all the 76 questions, you will not be able to do it within 2 hours, right? Or 100 questions in 3 hours. That was the previous pattern. You get the difference here, right? You cannot do it. So competitive exams are never about solving all the questions. Competitive exams are never about solving all the questions, right? In college or board exams, weightage to different questions is well defined. Here, weightage is not defined. And let me tell you, some mistakes that students they tend to commit. Like if you talk about CAT 2018, like after 2 or 3 years, questions on surds, indices, and logarithms and all, it kind of appeared in the exam. And students, incidentally, were not studying these topics before, and then suddenly they found themselves stumped. And the topics that they had actually prepared, the questions that came from those topics were actually difficult. Do you understand the difference here, people? Right? This is huge. 2018 or 19, I think it was, right? Right. So, when it comes to, attempting a tough question, you have to kind of be very clear in terms of your strategy, right? What do I mean that you have to be clear in terms of your strategy, right? See, in the college exams, since there is some time left, you can definitely attempt all the tough questions, right? But here, if you happen to attempt a tough question, you might actually miss out on the easier ones. And in lieu of that tough question, you could have attempted more easier questions. You could have attempted more easier questions. I mean, more easier is grammatically wrong. You could have attempted easier questions, right? And you could have scored more marks. Yeah, it's a different scenario if the entire section is very, very difficult, like the LRDI section of CAT 2020. In that case, you have no choice but to attempt the tough questions because almost all the sets there were difficult, right? If it is not that particular scenario, right, you should just mark the tough questions. You should come back to them later on, and then you can kind of go about attempting them, right? So this is something that you should kind of think about. Now if you talk about in terms of difficulty, college and board exams, usually section wise difficulty is usually predictable. It's not very difficult. But if you talk about competitive exams, nothing is predictable, people. Nothing is predictable, right? And when I'm saying nothing is predictable, what does this essentially mean, right? This essentially means that you have to decide how much you are going to attempt during the exam. You have to decide how much you're going to attempt during the exam, right? So skim through the paper, try and understand the level of difficulty, and then you should decide as to what should be a good attempt. So how do I predict how much should I attempt based on the level of difficulty? How do I get an idea of the difficulty? Again, for these mock exams are going to come to your rescue, right? It is the mock exams which are kind of going to tell you as to how much you should be attempting or how much you should not be attempting, right? Now the college and the board exams, they test your knowledge, while competitive exams, they test the application of knowledge, right? Negative marking, usually in college or board exams there's no negative markings, but here in competitive exams, most exams have negative marking, barring a few which do not have negative marking, right? So to summarize, basically college exams are very predictable and the examiners, they want you to do well. But if you talk about competitive exams, they're quite unpredictable and examiners lay a lot of traps for a simple reason. The seats are limited. You cannot call everybody for the interview, so you need some parameters to reject students and select only a few students for the interviews. So what I usually like to call competitive exams as a rejection process, people, right? And in order to master and overcome the traps laid down by the examiners, it does become very important that you give lots of mock exams, and you master the strategy while you are practicing the real exam through the mock exams, right? So the better you get at the game of the mock exams, right, the better you get, you better you get at the competitive exams as well, right? Secondly, if you talk about mock exams per se vis-a-vis the competitive exams, right, the second thing that you kind of need to understand is that analyzing mock exams is also very important, and how should we do that? That is something I will be discussing in a while, right? So let me give you some some overview of what negative marking essentially can mean. So this is an example I've chosen based on the CAT 2019 pattern. Let's say there are 34 questions. It's just an example. You can choose 26 questions, you can choose 34 questions based on however you'd like to do it, right? So let's say student A attempts 30 questions, student B attempts only 24 questions, right? Student A gets 19 questions correct and 11 wrong. Now student B is a little more cautious, because the person has attempted only 24 number of questions, right? So of course then student B has spent more time on each of the questions, so the probability of this person getting more questions correct is going to be higher. But let's just say this person gets just one question more, one more question correct, right? Therefore, but then the student had attempted only 24 questions, and therefore the number of wrongs is only 4, right? The number of wrongs is only 4. So based on the +3 -1 marking, just look at the difference of marks. So there is a huge difference of 10 marks that comes into the picture. Do you understand the meaning of this 10 marks? This 10 marks can create a huge difference, right? What kind of a difference it can create? Right, above 90 percentile, it can make a difference to the tune of 2 to 3%. And below 90 percentile, it can make a difference of anywhere close to 5 to 10%, depending on where you stand. You get the point, people, right? So this is actually a huge difference, right? So people, competitive exams are about percentiles and not percentage, right? So if you talk about CAT 2019, at 157 out of 300, so there were like 100 questions, so of course total 300, right? The percentile, the person got at 52.23, the person got a 99.08 percentile. That's barely about 52.23% in terms of score or raw marks, right? Which is not great. Nobody, somebody would have scored 98, 99% in 10th or in 12th, or maybe a 9 or a 10 CGPA in 10th, right? Or a 8-pointer or 9-pointer in college. That person cannot even dream about 52.3%, right? But that is a reality, right? So people, you don't need to score a lot of marks. If you have any questions still here, I'll be happy to answer, people. So at 140 you could have gotten about 98 percentile. So people preparing for competitive exams is like preparing for a war, right? So this is something you need to understand. Since you do not know about the enemy, just focus on yourself and overcome your weaknesses to prepare for the war. All you have to think about is, I have to complete the course, and every day with each mock exam I'm going to improve my performance every single day. That's what you have to do, right? So just keep identifying your weaknesses and just keep overcoming them. That is the most important aspect about preparing for this thing, right? So what is needed to prepare for MBA entrance exams? So when you are preparing, you have to prepare on two fronts. One is knowledge and application, another one is exam taking strategies. So people, first of all, you have to understand this thing. Though these two things at one level are independent of each other, they're completely independent, right? They're completely independent of each other, right? And at the second level, both of them also depend on each other. So how are they independent and how are they independent? Let's try and figure that out today, right? So basically, when you're talking about the knowledge and application wala part, if you attend all the classes, you complete the exercises, you do daily reading, you keep time for revision, right? Then your content is more or less complete, right? Your content is more or less complete. I'm not going to focus on this part. I had taken a strategy, I had taken a class yesterday on YouTube, wherein I had said how you should go about preparing in the next 4 months. Go through that video and I'll teach you all about how to develop the knowledge and application, right? Basically the whole idea is you complete the entire syllabus. That's more important, right? Now see, when you're talking about developing exam taking strategies, there's just two simple goals. एकदम सिंपल सा फंडा मैं बता रहा हूँ, बस दो चीज़ों पे आपको ध्यान देना है. You have to focus only on two things. You have to just focus on two things. One, which is your maximizing your attempt. Two, which is minimizing negative marking. Right? That is the negative marks that you get. That is something you have to minimize, negative marks, right? So these two are the only goals that you have to focus as far as your exam taking strategy is concerned, right? Now, maximizing attempt involves two things. For example, right now, if you have studied only 10% of the course, of course, you're not going to attempt a lot of questions, right? So first of all, maximizing attempt is a function of, right? Good evening Rishikesh, good evening my dear, right? Maximizing attempt is a function of your course completion, right? That's the first function. So ठीक है, 10% syllabus complete हुआ, I'll only attempt 10% of the questions, right? 20% complete hoga, I'll attempt more number of questions. There could be certain questions for which you do not really need to know anything, right? That's a completely different kind of a scenario, right? They could be completely aptitude based questions. At least you can go about attempting those questions, right? So that is also this thing, maximizing attempt. Secondly, you also have to learn how to find the questions which are doable. For example, I remember like 2019, once again, I remember a lot of things from 2019 because there was no lockdown, so that was one good thing, right? Now there was this girl who was like literally in tears. She was crying, when she came for a counseling session, that sir, I'm getting negative marks in quant. Why is that? So open your mock exams, and when I kind of analyzed her mock exams, I realized she was doing the questions in a serial order wise, right? And when she was doing the questions in a serial order wise, so she was always stuck, she was stuck with the difficult questions that kind of came in the beginning, because the examiners know that if a student happens to solve the questions in a serial order manner, I can trap that particular student by giving a lot of difficult questions at the start, right? So I sat with her and I looked at every question and asked her, can you solve this? Can you solve this? Can you solve this? Can you solve this? So out of 34 odd quant questions, she was able to solve 10 questions. So I said, if you would have solved these 10 questions during the exam, you would have already got, more than 70 percentile, right? So you have to kind of choose the questions from within, right? So course completion, so maximizing attempt is, one is course completion, and the second factor that kind of works is your strategy in terms of question selection as well, right? So question selection is another function, that is very important as far as, maximizing your attempts are concerned, right? So that's the thing. Now the second part that you have to focus on is your minimizing your negative marking, right? Now usually when students, they go about giving competitive exams, what is going on in their head? अरे यार मेरे से सिर्फ 4-5 क्वेश्चंस 10 क्वेश्चंस हो रहे हैं यार, बाकी स्टूडेंट्स तो पता नहीं 15-20 या कितने क्वेश्चंस कर रहे होंगे, मैं तो बस इतना ही कर रहा हूं. Start kind of panicking and they go about attempting a lot of questions, because of which they end up incurring negative marks. They're confused between two options, yet they go about attempting without even contextually analyzing the two options and choosing the right answer. You get the point. What I'm trying to tell you here is, right? So people, your focus during the exam should and should only be that you do all the doable questions. You do all the doable questions, right? Just ensure that whatever your level of preparation is, जहाँ भी जितना, whatever your caliber is, whatever your level of preparation is, based on that, I will ensure that any doable question in the exam is not left. That's my only goal. That is my only goal. That any doable question in the exam is something I'm not going to leave, right? So how do I know that I did not leave any doable questions, and the questions that I left were actually good? Because they could have actually trapped me, they could have kind of marred my score, destroyed my score, they would have made me incur a lot of negative marking, or I could have wasted a lot of time, is when you analyze. So how do we analyze? We solve all the questions while we are analyzing, like after the exam, we solve all the questions that we did not do during the exam. So that will tell me whether my question selection was right or wrong, or did I actually leave any question during the exam which could have been done, but unfortunately I could not do it, right? For some reason or the other, I got stuck in some other questions, I took it on my ego, I wasted time, or I did not use a proper strategy, I was solving the questions in a serial order manner. It could be any factor, right? So that's also a thing. You get the point what I'm trying to say, people? Yes or no? Do you agree or disagree? Right? So that's how you're supposed to kind of increase your score. That is, control yourself, that I'm not going to attempt more questions than what my caliber is. I'll control myself. Yeah, I'll control myself, and that is very, very important, right? So basically what I'm trying to say overall is, appear for mock exams even if your syllabus is not complete, because this minimizing the negative marking wala part is something you need to practice. You need to practice question selection, right? So if you have not completed a lot of topics, of course you're not going to attempt more, a lot of questions, which is perfectly fine, right? So you have to develop a control over attempting more questions under psychological and emotional pressure. That is, you have to learn how to minimize negative marking. This is, people, something which is very important. So you have to practice not getting stuck in any question, jump over and search for doable questions. As simple as that, right? And don't get bogged down by the need to get more marks, right? This has destroyed many students' performance in the mock exams. If you just focus on these little things, I guarantee you that your raw score will increase by at least 20% and your overall percentile will increase by at least 40%. Do this. अगले एग्जाम में ये करना, ठीक है, और आप देखोगे कि आपका रॉ स्कोर जो है वो 20% कम से कम आपका इंक्रीज होगा और आपका ओवरऑल परसेंटाइल जो है वो कम से कम 40% जो है ज़रूर इंक्रीज होगा. Percentile is rank, right? So I hope you know that. Okay. So basically, to summarize, what I had said was, you have to do all of these things to complete your knowledge and application, attend all the classes, complete exercises, do daily reading, keep time for revision. On the other hand, for exam taking strategies, what you need to master is maximize your attempt and minimize your negative marking, right? And you need to attempt mock exams as much as possible, even if your syllabus is not complete. In fact, as far as completing your syllabus is concerned, that confidence is something you're not even going to get even before 1 day before the exam, right? So you're not going to feel confident during that time as well, right? So you should attempt the mock exams even if syllabus is not complete. Okay, I can see because of my photo a little bit of that line is cut, but what is written there is, attempt mock exams even if your syllabus is not complete, right? So that's the thing, right? So okay, so people, I'm conducting before I discuss the exam taking strategies further, I need to inform you about a few things, right? The first thing first is, subscribe to my link here at Unacademy. You will be able to access a lot of free sessions that I take. So on 8th, I'm taking a session at 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock, free sessions, completely free. You can access these, right? Join my Telegram group, you'll get an update there as well. On the 9th of August, again, I'm taking an RC accuracy accelerator workshop, and I'll teach you all the tips and tricks as to how you can go about increasing your accuracy and more. I kind of take sessions almost every day at 8 o'clock. Earlier I used to take every day at 11 p.m. as well, but since I'm launching my plus course and I'll be busy from 10:30 to 12 taking that particular course, so I'll be changing the time, but I'll update the new time on my Telegram group. So subscribe to this one and you'll get all the necessary updates, right? So before I discuss the strategies of the exams, let me also inform you about the new plus courses that I'm launching. People, critical reasoning is very, very critical to reading comprehension, and as such, I've decided to first launch a course on critical reasoning. It's already live. If you go to my student page, you'll be able to find there. You'll find the details here in the Telegram group as well. So conclusions, assumptions, inferences, strengthening, weakening, flaw, paradox, parallel reasoning, everything, every single aspect I would be covering, and you would be able, then after this course you will see that your accuracy in the reading comprehension area is going to increase by a huge margin. Then from the 19th during the same time, by the way, I'm kind of conducting all the courses from 10:30 p.m. to 12 p.m. so even if you're studying anywhere else, even if you're busy with your college, even if you're busy with your job, this is a very comfortable and convenient time for you to attend the classes, and I'm not going to burden you with huge sessions, just 90 minutes, right? And then from 19th during the same time, I'm also I will also be conducting from 19th. I would be conducting a course on reading comprehension. Again, you will learn how to dissect the passages, you learn how to understand the author's viewpoint, right? You would also learn about question types and what should be the right strategy for each kind of question, then what should be the right strategy for what should be the overall strategy for reading comprehension. I would be covering this, and I'll also give you an overall strategy for VRC, and the course would end on the 30th of August itself, right? Aditya, you don't need to pay for the free sessions. That's completely free. All you have to do is just download the Unacademy app, and you can watch the sessions there. Yeah, absolutely free, my dear, right? So join the Telegram group. Here you will get all the updates, right? And you can subscribe to my page on Unacademy as well, right? And there too you will get all the updates, right? And then people, I'm also launching the para based courses from the 24th of August, wherein I'll cover para jumbles, odd man out, para summary, para completion, and I'll give you fantastic strategies, and you will see that you will be able to save time and you will be able to increase your accuracy as well. The timing is just from 8:45 p.m. to 10:15. By 29th we cover this course, and then I give you the overall course strategy on the 30th. So people, in 1 month I'm going to complete your entire course. I'm going to complete your entire VRC course that is important for the CAT exam. In the month of September, I would take grammar, vocabulary, and deductive reasoning. So 3 courses I'll be launching in September. So please, enroll for these courses. I would, and I can guarantee you that your performance, in the VRC section of the CAT exam, so it's going to transform like anything. And one thing that I can guarantee you is that your accuracy will increase by a minimum of 50%, and your score will increase by a minimum of 30%, right? And more importantly, you will have the exact parameters as well as to how to judge your performance in the exam, right? So this is also very important, right? And I think this can be a fantastic opportunity. So even if you just enroll for a 1 month, check out Unacademy. You can learn from anybody. You can learn from me, you can learn from any other educator there. You can kind of access anybody else's recorded as well as live sessions. They are fantastic educators out here, right? From all over India, right? Some of the best minds in the country who will be training and teaching you here, right? And then the price and all is very meager, 3,000 something. That is if you take a 1 month subscription, and if you take a yearly subscription, the cost per month comes down to about 1,500 or 1,600 rupees. That's very, very little. I mean, you would spend more money watching a movie in the PVR once if pandemic gets over, right? And Unacademy has also launched fantastic offers. Like if you take a 12-month subscription, you get 3 months free, and if you take a 24-month subscription, you also get 3 months free. And as I said before, the longer subscription that you take, the per month cost actually comes very, very down, right? So this is a fantastic opportunity. You, and more than that, if you use my code RAVIFMS, you get 10% discount as well. There would be an option that would come, you have to use a code. Just use this code, you'll get a 10% discount, right? And you will also get my mentorship, and together I guarantee you that we shall crack it, right? So join my page, join my Telegram group, and you'll get all the necessary updates that are bound to come. Okay, now let's talk about strategy. Let's talk about strategy. And the first, see how I've decided this strategy wala part is, I'm going to pick up different kind of exams. So it's a very generic overview strategy that can individually be implemented for all the kinds of exams that you would be appearing for, right? The first strategy that I'm going to talk about is CAT. So what is unique about CAT is the sectional time here is fixed, right? The sectional time is fixed, right? So you have to kind of spend 40 minutes VARC, right? And then again 40 minutes for LRDI, and then again 40 minutes you have for quant as well, right? So what is unique about this fixed sectional time is, in the other exams, let's say if your VRC is weak, you could have gained marks by solving more questions from LRDI or quant. Let's say somebody whose VARC is strong, but LRDI and quant is weak, then that person could have attempted more number of VRC based questions, right? But then unfortunately that is something you cannot do in the CAT exam, right? You cannot do that in CAT exam. Therefore you have to master all the 3 sections, right? So I see English honors students, they kind of work hard towards VRC. I see commerce students, BBA students, economics honors students, engineers, they kind of work too much towards LRDI and quant. And many a time, I see people ignoring VARC section. So what happens, right? Based on my experience, I've seen many students scoring above 95 percentile in the LRDI and quant section, but when it comes to the VRC section, they are not even able to cross 75 percentile, right? So you need to work hard in all the 3 areas. All the 3 areas are very, 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 very important, right? So that's one thing. Now when you talk about the VARC section, people, once again, question selection is very important. If you search the Unacademy videos, you'll find my video where I have given a proper strategy as to how you can go about attempting VARC. So VARC exam taking strategy, you can access that. Just to give you a little overview, in this case, people focus first on doing RC because there is a stamina factor that kind of works, because after a certain amount of time you are not able to read properly, right? Okay, Shubham, there's a question. Okay, sorry sir, I gave mocks 2 days earlier and got 30 marks. Today I got 100. I literally don't know what is happening with my preparation. I'm practicing daily and still cannot score consistently good marks. Shubham, that is happening because you go to the exam with a predetermined mindset that I have to attempt these many questions, right? That is a huge error, right? So the marks can fluctuate. Maybe the level of difficulty of the paper is increasing, right? But your attempts seems to remain consistent. So you need to lower your attempt if the level of difficulty of the paper is increasing, right? So even if your marks decreases, that's perfectly fine. Look at your percentile, right? Look at your percentile. Percentile matters, my dear. That is exactly what I have been emphasizing, right? So if you don't vary your attempts based on the level of difficulty of the paper, right, you are you're going to continue to your marks are going to continue to fluctuate, and you would not have any idea as to why your percentile is varying. You get the point? You get the point? So this is something that you need to kind of focus on. So Shubham, what was your percentile when you got 30 marks, and what was your percentile when you got 100 marks? Right? And what was the level of difficulty of the paper? Was it the same, or did it fluctuate? Or were the questions asked from the areas in one exam where you were comfortable, and in the other exams where you were not comfortable? That could have also been the case, right? So हो सकता है तुम्हारे VARC weak हो, your VARC must be weak, right? And let's say if the VARC section was easy, you scored well, and let's say if the VARC section was tough, you scored fewer marks. So all of these factors, they kind of work, right? So that's the thing. Anyway, so as I was saying, people, that when it comes to the VARC section, first RC, then do the VA section, and first 5 minutes spent for skimming through the passages, right? For skimming through the passages, right? So why do you think your marks fluctuated, Shubham, like this? So were you not in the right mood, in the right mental frame? So psychological frame also kind of works, right? So yesterday's class that I've taken, 100 days strategy, for preparing a strategy for 100 days preparation. So in that I've talked about physiological, psychological, emotional, multiple factors that can affect your performance. So can you kind of elaborate what happened with the 30 marks? Was the paper more difficult or easy? What happened exactly, right? So let me just know about that. Anyway, so as I said, people, that VRC, first attempt RC, and then first spend 5 minutes to kind of go through the paper. The big mistake that people tend to commit as far as the selecting the RC passages is concerned, they tend to typecast the paper. So typecast का मतलब क्या होता है? They tend to typecast the passage. Sorry, my mistake. They tend to typecast the passage. So typecast the passage means essentially, like if there's a passage from zoology, अरे zoology, biology, medical science का, या मेरे को करने का ही नहीं है, और economics बोलेगा ये science का, मेरे को करने का ही नहीं है. अरे बाबा, that passage could actually be very introductory, and you can definitely attempt that, right? Akhtar, the difference between percent and percentage is raw score. Let's say out of 300, if somebody scores 150 marks, right? So the percentage is 50%, right? But then this person at 150 could be ahead of 99% of the other students, right? For example, let's just round off it, and let's say 2 lakh people appeared for the exam, right? So maybe this person is ahead of 1,98,000 students at 150 out of 300. Therefore his percentile then becomes 99 percentile, and only 1% of the students is ahead of this particular candidate who has scored around 150 out of 300. So basically his score, that is percent, is 50, right? But his percentile is actually 99. And this difference is something people don't understand, right, Akhtar? So this is the thing. Okay. Let's move forward, people. So that was about VARC, right? Okay, so as I was saying, don't typecast the passages. When it comes to LRDI, the LRDI thing is, set selection primarily is the most important thing. So 5 minutes again, spent towards set selection, skim through the passages and then see which set is more doable or not, then accordingly attempt it, right? For some reason or the other, for the last 2 or 3 years, CAT has developed a knack of giving very difficult LRDI questions. So people, you really need to practice a lot as far as this is concerned. Quant people, questions in between are hidden, they're very easy. So once again, people, in quant, students, they tend to make the mistake of typecasting questions. How do they typecast? मेरा तो quadratic equation बहुत strong है, तो अपन जो है quadratic equation का कोई भी question आएगा मैं तो उसको करेगा, right? And sometimes difficult questions can come and students ends up wasting time. Probability, permutation, combination तो छूने का नहीं है भाई, मेरे से हिलता नहीं है वो, है ना? And they don't even attempt those questions, right? But then they could be easier questions. So people always judge the questions based on their merit, right? And so you should always use a two-pronged strategy. In the first round, go about selecting the questions which are doable, do it at that very point of time, and then kind of jump out, and then in the first round, mark those questions which are doable and leave out those questions which you don't know or you're confused about or which might actually be time taking, and then in the next round come back and do those questions that you have actually marked, right? Diksha, you can prefer any book. There are lots of good books. I'm not going to name one. So whichever teacher that you're going to study from, I would advise taking advice from that, right? For example, if you come to Unacademy, Ravi Prakash sir is here, right? He is a fantastic teacher. You can take up his classes, and he'll not only teach you well, he'll not only give you a lot of exercises, but he'll be the right person to guide you. So I'm going to maintain my professional ethics, and I'm going to talk about that. But yes, in the market there are a lot of good books. Yeah, so that's the thing. So anyway, quant, as I was saying, you should use this two-pronged strategy to kind of answer the questions. So in the second round, the questions that you have marked, you can go about attempting. If in case you're still left with time, then you can kind of attempt the very tough questions which you knew that would take time, but then you can actually solve it, but it requires a lot of time, right? So all of these things you have to master based on experience, and the mock exams are exactly what are going to give you the experience. Now let's say if LRDI is very tough, like 2020, right? 2020 paper. So sometimes it could be the case that from each set you might not be able to do a lot of questions, and therefore you'll have to select questions from different sets as well. Okay, Shubham sir, in 30 marks I scored low equally among all the 3 sections with accuracy that is very, very low. I got 100 scored equally in all the 3 sections with 100% accuracy. So I'm talking about the level of difficulty, Shubham. Did it vary? Right, because such huge variations usually do not come, especially if a student is well prepared, right? So that's the thing. Okay, now the second thing is, people, the level of difficulty can vary across the exam. The level of difficulty can vary based on individual sections as well, and that is something you'll have to adjust, you'll have to learn when you are giving the exam, right? So this again becomes a very important factor in your performance, right? So all of these factors are when is the paper tough, when you should be not attempting. See, these are things which cannot be taught in the class, so you have to gain a lot of experience, right? So this is what I usually call as experiential learning. So the more mock exams you give, the better you get at the game, right? All you have to do is, after the mock exam, sit down and analyze. Just sit down and analyze, and then just learn about the mistakes that you have committed, and just ensure that you're not committing those mistakes again. Because there is no perfect strategy for these exams, right? Whatever works for you is a perfect strategy. Whatever works for you is a perfect strategy, right? So that's the thing, right? So you have to learn and adopt and develop your own perfect strategy for the exam, right? Yes sir, today it is easier, and then Shubham, when the paper becomes difficult, I think that is where you start panicking, and then something goes wrong and your performance dips even further than what you could have actually performed in the exam, right? So ये चीज़ है, ठीक है ना? So you'll have to learn to adopt to the varying levels of difficulty, which is very important. Now you get the point, ठीक है? तो ये डेवलप करना बहुत ज़रूरी है, ठीक है? अरे why has this come up again? Sorry. So okay, now let's talk about strategies in which sectional time is not defined, like the XAT paper. In 3 hours they have verbal ability, they have RC, then they have decision making, they have quant, and of course there are some questions which are based on LRDI and all as well. Sometimes a couple of sets they do appear here as well, right? So that's the thing. So in this case, people, you have to kind of so let me just, not only that, I'm just going to give you a general strategy, sorry, right? So when you talk about other management entrance tests where the time is fixed, like in the case of that, GK के लिए वो अलग time देते हैं, right? GK के लिए वो अलग time देते हैं, right? But in certain exams, GK is also part and parcel of that overall lump sum time that they have given for you to solve. So let's say, if there is a paper, which has all of these sections and there is a composite time, right? For example, IIFT has a composite time of 2 hours. Some other exams have composite time of 3 hours. So it can be 3 hours, it can be 2 hours, or anything, right? Usually these are the areas that are tested depending on different kinds of exams. First of all, people in these exams start with GK, because either you know, otherwise you don't know, right? Now, one of the difficulties about handling these kind of exams is the psychological pressure, because the number of questions and the time for each question per question is going to be very, very little, right? So this is a huge factor, people, right? So so in this case you have to gain some psychological advantage. That is, you need a gap between the amount of time that is given to you and, let's say, the number of questions that are given to you. I think about, let's say there is an exam in which you have 120 minutes and then you have, let's say, 110 questions, right? So you can see there's a huge pressure. There's just about a minute that you have for each question out here, right? And let's say all of these sections are appearing there. So let's say if you attempt GK first, so probably 20 questions you can do within 10 minutes, right? I'm just giving an example. Let's say you do 20 questions within 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, you're left with 110 minutes. And here you're left with sorry, I was right, 90 questions you're left. Now you can see the gap has increased by 20 minutes. Now if you're talking about verbal ability, okay, one more thing that you need to know is, apart from CAT, every other exam, they are going to have questions from vocabulary, grammar, right? Now these are, once again, if you know, if you know these questions, then you know how to answer it. If you don't know, you don't know, right? So vocabulary, grammar, the para jumble questions, para summary questions, para completion questions here, they happen to be very, very easy, unlike the unlike the CAT exam. And then in the para jumble section, you also have options, and if you have options and if you know the pairing strategy, you can score within 30 seconds in these kind of exams, right? So you can do these questions very, very quickly. Let's say there are about 30 odd questions which are based on these, right? And 30 odd questions, basically maybe you can do it within 20 minutes, right? So now you're left with 90 minutes, 30 odd questions, and then you have about 60 questions left. So now you can see there is a huge gap of 30 minutes here. Isn't that fantastic, right? And then you don't have to do all the questions in quant, you don't have to do all the questions in LRDI, you don't have to do all the questions in decision making. RC also, you can select the ones which you feel are doable, right? And now you have a more practical time as to the number of questions which you can go about attempting, and you can easily score a lot of, you can easily score very good marks. Now as far as these exams with the sectional time is not fixed, you can also increase your performance, right? So let's say if your VRC is weak, you can do more of quant questions. If your let's say your quant area is weak, you can do more of VRC questions, right? So that is how you can go about kind of varying your attempt in the examination, right? So that's how you can go about varying your attempt in the exam. I'm just giving the overall view, right? So this is the thing, right? Secondly, you also need to focus on that it could be the case that the VA section is very tough while the quant is easy in some year of the exam, and let's say it could also be the case that the quant section is tough but the VA section is very easy, right? So basically what I'm trying to say is you can optimize your score based on your area of strength. You can optimize your score based on your area of strength, and you can also optimize your score based on B, the difficulty of a particular section or easiness of a particular section, right? So let's say if a section has lower difficulty and you're like almost okay with it, then you can actually attempt more number of questions. Yeah, you get the point. So you have to kind of learn and practice all of these things, and you can only do it if you are kind of practicing lots and lots of mocks, right? So this is the thing. Moving further, people, now let's talk about exams where you cannot move further without answering a question. For example, GMAT and NMAT. So the first question you answer, you go to the second question, it has more level of difficulty, you answer this correct, let's say, right? You go to the third question, now it has more level of difficulty, right? So difficulty level is even higher, right? Now it is so high that either you're not able to solve the question, or even if you solve the questions, you might end up taking a lot of time, right? So when you're taking a lot of time, so basically you're consuming a lot of resource. You are consuming a lot of resource, people, right? Isn't it? Right? या तो आपका resource जा रहा है या ये चीज़ है. Through questions of theory or anything else, Jairaj, just give me 2 minutes. I'll just come to your question, right? So this kind of consumes a lot of resource, right? Now let's say if you were a businessman, if you started a business in the hope that you would gain a lot of profit, initially some profit came, but for some reason the scenario changed and now the business has become very difficult to manage. In that case, what would you do? Right, let's say if it you would have tried many things to improve the business, but let's say it's not improving. In that case, you will go for a minimum loss theory. That is, you will shut down the business and you will think about starting something else, and you will incur the loss whatever the amount is. So this minimum loss theory is something that you would focus on. The same thing you have to do for exams which are based on GMAT and NMAT pattern, right? So let's say if this question is going to be difficult and it's going to take a lot of time, then I will mark anything and move on. So what would happen is, let's say if I get this question wrong, the next question would have lesser difficulty, right? So again I can attempt this, then if I get this right, then again the next question would kind of be more difficult. So this is how you have to kind of vary your attempt, right? Usually the problem that students face when it comes to these exams is they are left with a lot of questions. They're left with a lot of questions at the end. Okay, maybe about 25% of the questions are still left and they have not even seen those questions, right? So for these exams, a general strategy is it's okay to be left with 3 to 4 minutes, right? Are left, but you should never be left with any question. That is the strategy you should follow. Okay, so 3-4 minutes wasted, this is fine, right? But 3-4 questions not seen, this is absolutely not fine, right? So once again, people, if you give a lot of mocks and you practice accordingly, you will master how to give these mocks and all as well. So please remember, it is all about the minimum loss theory, right? So this is the thing. Jairaj, sir, how to revise? Should we revise through questions, through theory, or anything else? Jairaj, the answer is both. See, as far as vocabulary and all are concerned, you have to just go through them, As far as grammar is concerned, just go through the rules, practice a few questions, right? As far as quant is concerned, go through the concepts and all, practice a few questions based on each of the topics. As far as LRDI is concerned, again, the concepts, the strategies, let's say you would have learned fractions and shortcuts and all as well. Have those things on your fingertip and again practice a few questions, right? Many a time you would have learned a lot of theories and all from the questions that you solve, right? So even make a note of those points and all as well, and that will again help you do well in the examination, right? So this is the thing. Okay, moving further, right? Now let's talk about mock exam analysis. How do we go about doing mock exam analysis, right? So people, don't worry, we are going to complete in the next 10 minutes, so please hold on, right? First of all, attempt all the questions which you did not attempt during the mock exam. This will tell you about question selection, whether it's right or wrong, right? So when you are solving the questions at home, right, and if you feel, oh, these questions were actually very easy and doable, but I did not do it in the exam, then people, you have actually committed huge mistakes during the exam, right? Reattempt all the questions that you got wrong, right? So when you reattempt them, then let's say if you get the questions correct at home, you would be able to find what silly mistakes you are committing during the exam and make a mental note or maybe a note on the paper that you would not be committing those silly mistakes once again, right? Do time spent analysis of each question. Did you take it on your ego and you ended up wasting a lot of time? It can happen in quant, it can happen in LRDI, and it can happen particularly in the t-test sections of the VARC section, right? So people, just find the mistakes that you have committed and pledge not to repeat them again, and identify your area of weakness where you need to study more and practice more, right? So identify your area of weakness as well, right? So as long as you are learning more about the mistakes that you're committing, you are learning more about your weaknesses, this itself will help you improve your performance in the exam. Just overcome the area of mistakes, just ensure that you do not repeat your mistakes, and keep fine tuning your preparation as you go along. People, there is no perfect strategy. Just keep fine tuning your preparation till you arrive at a strategy that works for you. You have to, at the end of the day, you have to come up with your individual strategy. This is very important, and you can only come up with your individual strategy is if you do a lot of mock exam analysis. That is only going to tell you the mistakes that you're committing and the area of weakness. Just keep improving these things and move forward. Don't worry about what your friends are scoring. Don't worry about what the world is doing. As long as you are able to do these two things, that is perfectly fine. So Shubham, when you are saying that you got 30 marks in one exam and 100 in the other, did you do your mock exam analysis and identify what exactly the mistake that you committed? If no, then it means you're not doing a proper analysis. If yes, then that is fantastic, right? Some of these psychological mistakes that people tend to do, they start fear, they fear the result even before giving the exam. So this kind of mars your performance. Jahan paper thoda tough hua, logon ki watt lagni shuru ho gayi. People, control. Don't let fear hijack your performance, right? Giving the mock exams with a predetermined number of questions, so the people, students ki aaj to mere ko itne questions karne karne, I'm definitely going to attempt these number of questions. People, that is wrong. Please do not do that, right? So do not go to the exam with a predetermined number of questions. Skim through the paper and then get a feel of how difficult the paper is, and then accordingly develop a strategy. Unable to select questions properly, they typecast the questions, rather than judging a question by its merit. They get played into the examiner's trap. Ego issues overtakes them. They end up wasting time. They have over expectations. Apan ko itna to score karne ka, itne question to sahi hone ka hai, and they have kind of unrealistic desire of outcomes that does not match with their effort put in for the exam. You get the point, people? Any question till here? Right? So this unrealistic desire. So these are psychological mistakes that people, they tend to do. So when you're talking about a CAT exam, right? Analyze individual sections, do all the questions, right? See what mistake you are doing and see if that overall section itself is weak, and see how your performance varies if the section actually becomes more difficult or it becomes easier, right? So you have to kind of compare based on these parameters, right? And you have to ensure that each section is strong when it comes to performing well in the CAT exam, people, right? So this is something you have to focus on. How to analyze exams in which sectional tests are, as far as that is concerned, paper like these. So again, did you miss out on any of the doable questions, right? If yes, then that's wrong. And were you able to optimize your score based on the area of strength? Or if was there a section which was easier and you could not maximize your score in that particular area as well? So I'm getting somewhere around 75 to 80 percentile in mocks. How should I increase my percentile? Pranav, that's exactly what I explained through the session. Now, did you come right now, or were you there from the beginning itself? Right. So have you identified the mistakes, the hiccups, the roadblocks? What is stopping you from increasing the percentile? Is it knowledge and concepts that you have not learned, or is it question selection strategy, or is it your exam taking strategy that has kind of created a problem for you? So what has troubled you, right? So anyway, that may people, you have to again focus on this one. Again, if you talk about GMAT and NMAT, if you're able to get the access of the entire paper, look at the questions that you actually missed. They would definitely be easier. I'm pretty confident about that. Were you getting stuck? Were you spending a lot of time on individual questions that kind of made you waste a lot of time? And you should have skipped that, knowing fully well that what you are marking may actually lead to a wrong answer, right? So you have to kind of analyze all of these things when it comes to the GMAT and NMAT kind of the paper as well, right? Last but not the least, people, mock exams can be a good question bank, right? So from the mock exams and the questions, you would be able to learn a lot. So that's one thing. You should make notes of unique tricks that you learn from mock exams, right? So ye cheez hai, and make notes of questions that teach you some unique tricks. So keep making those notes and learning them as well, right? Sir, mostly VA part, parajumbles. Pranav, if those areas are weak, subscribe to my channel, right? In this month I'm launching three courses on three fantastic areas: critical reasoning, reading comprehension, and parajumbles, right? So perhaps strategy wala part is something that is kind of missing at your end. So your strategy and everything would be strong, right? Individual strategies I would be giving you. And then after the month of August, if you feel that you continue to suffer in the VARC part, even if it is parajumbles, then tell me, right? So theta questions ko handle kaise karna, where you should not end up wasting a lot of time. All of these things I tend to cover, right? So you would get 10% discount on anything, any course, any monthly subscription, or a 6 months or a yearly or a 2-year subscription that you take at Unacademy. So you should take up this subscription and explore. Yeah, Pranav. So people, just focus on these things and you're done. You will definitely get a good percentile. And see, success or failure kuch bhi ho, right? Even if you fail, it should be grand. This is a message I had for people yesterday as well, and one that teaches you something like your shortcoming, your weaknesses, etc. And if you're still clueless about the failure, that means you were clueless during your preparation as well, right? And one of my favorite sayings, proverb that I'm going to just repeat once again, that khudi ko kar buland itna ki har takdeer ke pehle खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है ना? So people, you don't have to worry about the other competitors. खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना, take your level to such an extent, to such a height, right, that in any adversarial condition you are able to perform, that even the gods come down and ask you, okay, tell me Baba, what do you want, that you have worked so hard and you have taken your level to such a great extent. Yeah, है ना? खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर के पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. So people, Unacademy has launched the CAT Iconic program as well. You would be mentored by the people of your age who have cracked CAT 20 and who are studying in elite business schools, who are very good percentilers. You'll be able to speak with them, clear doubt, discuss concepts, exam taking strategy. You'll be able to customize your study plans, and you'll be able to book your slots as per your convenience. And if you happen to be here on the Unacademy platform, we educators would also help you. So some new courses and all are being launched. So some have been launched today as well. You can see the video recording. Some newer courses again would be launched. You can explore those as well, right? Unacademy also conducts a skill building program where they kind of have a 50-minute question of 30 minutes each test at 7 p.m. on different areas, so that will help you build your concepts and all as well, right? And Unacademy has also launched campus placement IT job support. So not only will you be preparing for the CAT exam, you will also be preparing for the campus placement. So there are two batches, Achievers batch and Hall of Fame batch. In one, you would be aiming for your IT companies, favorite IT companies like TCS, Infosys and all, and in the other one you would be preparing for your dream companies as well, like Deloitte, Ernst & Young and Samsung and Make It and so many others. I think this is a fantastic opportunity because you would prepare in terms of the technical skills, the aptitude skills. You'll also get mock interviews, soft skills, and you'll also get mock tests, and there's an opportunity for joining a live project and all as well, depending on how much the time is there, right? So you are basically able to get a job on campus to ensure as a second option, right? And you are also able to prepare for the CAT exam and launch your dream career by getting into a good MBA program as well, right? So thank you everybody. Please subscribe to my page on Unacademy. Please join the Telegram group. I share a lot of articles, a lot of resources that will help you strengthen your VRC and your overall CAT preparation. And if you choose to explore any course on Unacademy, please use my code RAVIFMS. You'll get 10% discount for sure. And what's more important than the money is that you will get my partnership, and you will also get my mentorship as well, and I'll be a proud partner in your success and your journey to an elite business school in the country. Sanchetna, thank you. Try and apply all of these things, and I'm pretty confident they will help you succeed. So thank you everybody, right? Don't forget to leave a comment and a review. And if you are somebody who has joined late and if you've missed the class, people, the recording of the lecture will be available in a short while, so you can watch the recording again, you can watch it again and again and fine-tune your preparation. For everything else, I'm always there, right? So join my Telegram group, ask me a question. I'm a person who sleeps very little, almost on a 24-hour basis. I tend to answer the questions of people, right? So that's me. Thank you everybody. You can log out if you want. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take that. Yeah, please ask any question if you have any question. I'm happy to take that. Any questions here, people? I'm happy to take that. People, any question? Come on, shoot. No questions? Sometimes the YouTube thing is comes a little delayed. Yeah, so I'm here for another couple of minutes before we call it a day. Any questions, people? No? Okay, one more minute. I'm just waiting. Ashish, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming for the session. Yeah, and people, if you have any queries, just post it on my Telegram group and I'll answer. Telegram is completely safe, people. Even I as an admin or anyone else as an admin cannot see your phone number, right? So you're completely safe and secure, and I think Telegram is a fantastic way to communicate with people, right? So you can definitely join, and it's a public group. Even if you just write my name and search, you'll find me. Should we call it a day, people? Chalo. I guess no other question is coming. It's already 10:08. Okay, it's not 10:18 right now, so I'm going to keep my promise. I'm going to wait till 10:18. Okay, now it's 10:18. Okay, people, since no more questions are coming in, so I'm going to log out. Thank you for your presence.